Hey there, hope you're having a wonderful day. In this video, we're going to be creating the game Tic Tac Toe using Java. So what you see here is the final result of this tutorial, and we have the game window here. I can click any of these tiles, and you can see Tic Tac Toe. And if I run it again, and I try to play one more time, so let's try to get a tie, and there you go. We have a tie. So this simple game is perfect for beginners who know the basics of Java. So throughout this tutorial, you will learn how to create this game using Java's built-in graphics library. So before we begin coding, I just want to quickly mention that I am working on a new tutorial series in Java where I teach you how to build different game projects using Java. So currently I am working on Tic Tac Toe and Snake. On my channel, I already have a ton of tutorials on how to create games using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I have a tutorial on Doodle Jump, Breakout, Flappy Bird, Space Invaders, Wordle, Sudoku, 2048, Minesweeper, Candy Crush, and many more. And you can also find this list on yipcoding.com. So if this is something that you're interested in and you want to stay up to date for new tutorials, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Alright, so for this tutorial, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. You can use whatever editor you want. If you want to learn how to set up Visual Studio Code with Java, I have a video tutorial on that, and I'll link it in this video description. Alright, so let's create a project. So I'm just going to press Ctrl-Shift-P, Java, create Java project, no build tools. I'm going to create this project on my desktop. And for our project name, I'm just going to call it Tic Tac Toe. Alright, so now we have our project folder. Within our project folder, we have this source folder. Just open it up, and we're going to open up app.java. And we're just going to get rid of this line. And let's add Tic Tac Toe. Tic Tac Toe is equal to new Tic Tac Toe. So this is all we need for our app.java file. In our source folder, let's create a new file, tic-tac-toe.java. And all of our code is going to be within this file. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is import a few things. So import java.awt.*, import java.awt.event, and import javax.swing.*. Okay, so these are going to be the libraries we need for creating our game. So let's start by creating our game window. So I'm going to define a few variables here. Board width is going to be 600 pixels. Board height is going to be 650 pixels. So we're going to allocate 50 pixels for the text panel on top. So this is going to be the panel that says it is X's turn or O's turn. And it's also going to be the panel that we use for displaying the winner of the game. So let's create our window. JFrame frame is equal to new JFrame. And let's add a constructor. So tic-tac-toe. First thing we need to do is make the frame visible. So frame.setVisible to true. And let's set a size. So frame.setSize, board width, board height. Alright, now I run this. We currently have our game window. So next, I'm going to add frame.setLocation relative to null. So what this does is it's going to open up our window at the center of our screen. Frame.setResizable. We're going to set this to false. Frame.setDefault close operation. We're going to set this to jFrame.exit on close. And then we're going to add frame.setLayout to new border layout. Okay, so now if I run our program, You can see we have our window at the center of our screen, and I can't resize the window. And if I click X, our program terminates. Okay, so that's what this line does. Alright, so now that we have our window, let's add some panels. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a panel for our text. And for our text, we need a label. So JLabel, text label is equal to new JLabel. And for this label, we need a JPanel. Text panel is equal to new JPanel. So for our text label, let's set a few things. So within here, I'm going to add text label dot set background color dot dark gray. So this is going to set the background color of our label to dark gray. And text label dot set foreground color dot white. So this is going to change the font color of our text to white. Text label dot set font new font. I like to use Arial. We're going to make it bold. And let's set the font size to 50. And then we're going to add text label dot set horizontal alignment to JLabel dot center. So this is going to center our text instead of having it start on the left side. Let's add a default text. So text label dot set text. We're going to write Tic Tac Toe. And then text label dot set opaque. Let's set this to true. Alright, so now that we have our text label, let's add this to our text panel. Text panel dot set layout new border layout. Text panel dot add text label. So we're taking this label and adding it to our panel, and then we need to add the panel to our frame. So frame.add text panel. Alright, so now you can see we have our text Tic Tac Toe. So we have our text label inside a panel, and the panel is centered. So what we want to do is push the panel up so that we can make some room for our Tic Tac Toe board. So to do that, I'm just going to add another parameter, border layout dot north. So now we have our text panel up here, and we have all this empty space, and this is where our board panel is going to go. So let's create that. And I also realize we didn't give a title for our window, so let's go ahead and do that as well. So over here, when we create our window, I'm going to add Tic Tac Toe. And now if I run our program, you can see we have a title for our window. Alright, so now let's create our board. So JPanel, board panel is equal to new JPanel. So board panel dot set layout new grid layout 3-3. So this is going to create a 3x3 grid layout for our Tic Tac Toe board. And I'm going to set the board panel background. Let's make it color.dark gray as well. And then I'm going to add the board panel to our frame. So frame.add board panel. Alright, so now you see we have a text panel and a board panel. So currently you can't see the board panel because it is the same color as our text panel. But before, if you remember, we had this white empty space. So this color here means that we have our board. And you can also change the color if you want. Alright, so now that we have our board panel, let's add some tiles. And for each tile, we're just going to create a button. So you can click on it to add an X or O. So over here, I'm going to create a 2D array of J buttons. And it's going to be a 3x3 array. So we're going to use this 2D array to keep track of all the buttons on the board. And it's 3x3 so that we can keep track of the placement of each buttons. And we're going to use this array to check whether there's a winner or not. And for each button, we're going to have a text of X or O. So let's create a string representing each one. So player X is going to be X, and player O is going to be O. And I'm going to add another variable called current player, and I'm just going to set this to player X. So this variable is just going to keep track of which text to use when we click on a button. So it's going to alternate between X and O. Currently, we've set current player to player X, so this means that the first player will be X. Alright, so over here, let's add some buttons. And I'm going to use a for loop. So for int r is equal to 0, r less than 3, r plus plus. So r stands for rows. And within each row, we have 3 columns. So for int c is equal to 0, c less than 3, c plus plus. I'm going to create a J button, and let's name it tile equals new J button. And I'm going to assign board R, C to tile. So as I mentioned before, we are going to use this 2D array to keep track of all the buttons. And then we need to add this button to the board panel. So board panel dot add tile. Alright, so now let's run this. And you can see we have our board panel with 3x3 buttons. So in total, we have 9 buttons, and you can click on them. So let's add some properties to style our buttons a bit. Alright, so let's add some properties. Tile.set background. Let's make the color of each button color.dark gray. Tile.set foreground. So this is the font color or the text color. Let's make it white. And let's set the font to new font Arial font.bold. And let's make the font size 120. And then we're going to add tile.set focusable. And we're going to make this false. Alright, so now you can see we have our buttons here, and currently there is no text, so you can't see the white color. So as an example, I'm going to do tile.set text current player. So current player is player X. So now if I run our program, you can see that for each button, for each tile, we have the letter X, and the color is white. Alright, so I'm just going to comment this out. So now that we have our board set up, I want to make it so that whenever I click on a tile, I want to set the text to either be X or O. So to do that, we need to add an action listener for each tile. So tile.add action listener. And this is going to be a new action listener. And within here, we're going to create a new function. So public void action performed. And this is going to take an action event, E. First, we need to figure out where this event is coming from. So since we only have buttons, we can assume that it's going to come from a button click. So JButton tile is equal to e.getSource. In this case, we're going to get an error because that normally the action event can come from different sources, not necessarily a button, but since we know that we only have buttons, we can just cast the type to JButton. And this will get rid of that error. Alright, so now that we have our button, let's do tile.setText current player. Alright, so now whenever we click on a button, we're going to set the text of the button to be the current player. In this case, it's just going to be X. So if I run our program and I click on each one, you can see we have X. Okay, so let's make it so that it alternates. Alright, let's alternate the current player. So current player is equal to, and here I'm just going to use a ternary expression. So current player, if it's equal to player X, I'm going to set it to player O, otherwise player X. And let's also update the text label. So text label dot set text current player plus apostrophe S turn. Okay, so this is going to let us know whose turn it is. Alright, so now we run our program. You can see whenever I click on a tile, it alternates. So it's O's turn now. Now it's X's turn. And we have an issue, and that is I can overwrite a tile. So you can see it'll alternate back and forth, and we don't want that to happen. So when we click on a button, the first thing we need to do is check the text to make sure it's empty. If it's empty, then we can place an X or an O. So over here, I'm going to do if tile.getText is equal to an empty string, then I'm going to do this stuff. So let's copy and paste this and place it inside. So just highlight this, press tab, and there you go. So if the text is an empty string, then we're going to set the text of the button to the current player, and then we're going to alternate. Alright, so now on the empty tiles, I can add an X or O. So currently it's O's turn. And if I try to change an existing tile, you can see nothing happens. Okay? Alright, so now that we're able to place X's or O's on our game board, let's check for winners. So up here, I'm going to add a boolean, game over, and I'm going to set this to false. So currently game over is false, and in here, in our action listener, I'm going to do if game over, return. So if the game is already over, we don't want to update the tiles, so we're just going to not let the players change the state of the game. And so over here, I'm going to call a function called checkWinner. And within here, we're just going to check the 2D array for winning conditions. And if there is a winner, then we can end the game there. So there's a chance that we're going to set game over to true. So if game over is true, we do not need to alternate the players anymore. So if game over, or rather if not game over, then I'm going to take this stuff and move it inside here. So put a tab here. Alright, so down here, I'm going to define the function void checkWinner. So let's scroll down a bit. And the first winning condition we're going to check is horizontal. So to check horizontally, we just need to go through each row of our 2D array and check to see if we have either 3 X's or 3 O's. So I'm just going to do for int r is equal to 0, r less than 3, r plus plus, if board of r0 dot get text. So we are checking to see if there are 3 X's and 3 O's within this row. And the first thing we're going to do is check to see if it's empty. So if the first tile is empty, then we don't need to check the next 2 tiles because there's no way you can get 3 X's or 3 O's if the first one's empty. So in this case, we're just going to do continue. Else, we're going to do if board of r0 dot get text equal to board of r1 dot get text, and board of r1 dot get text is equal to board of r2 dot get text. If this is the case, we're just going to set game over to true. And then we're going to return. So basically we're checking to see if the text on the first tile is equal to the text on the second tile, and the text on the second tile is equal to the text on the third tile. This means we have 3 in a row for this current row. So now if I run our program and I do this, you can see we have 3 in a row, so game over is true. And if I try to click on a tile, you can see nothing will change. Now let's make it more obvious that there is a winner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the font color of the tiles, and I'm going to set a different background color, and let's also change the label stating who is the winner. So for each tile, I want to change the background color and font color. So I'm going to do for int I equals 0, I less than 3, I plus plus. I'm going to call set winner on board of R, which is the current row, and I, which is the column. So let's define a set winner function. So void set winner, it's going to take a JButton tile, and I'm going to do tile.set foreground. Let's set the color to green, and tile.set background, let's set the color to gray. And let's also update our text label. So text label dot set text current player plus space is the winner. Okay. All right, so now let's run our program. And if we play our game, you can see X is the winner. And for the winning tiles, the font is green and the background is gray. All right, let's continue on with our winning conditions. So we have horizontal. Now we need to check for vertical. And it's going to be very similar. So we're going to use a for loop, but this time we're going to use the letter C indicating columns. So 3 in a row in a single column means we have a vertical win. So int C equals 0, C less than 3, C plus plus. And we're going to do the same thing if board of 0C dot get text. If this is equal to an empty string, this means the first tile of that column, there is nothing in it, so there cannot be a 3 in one column. So I'm just going to continue here. Else, if board of 0C dot get text equal to board of 1C dot get text, and board of 1C dot get text is equal to board of 2C dot get text, then we know we have 3 in a single column. So if we have 3 in a single column, let's do game over, set it to true, return. And before that, let's also apply the set winner for each tile. So for int I equals 0, I less than 3, I plus plus, set winner, board I, C. Okay, so in a 2D array, the first index is the row, and the second one is the column. So you can see here, we flipped it, RI. Over here, we're doing IC. So let's save and run this. Alright, so now we have our tic-tac-toe game. If I try to win vertically, you can see we have X is the winner. And if I play the game again, let's see. We have O is the winner. Okay? Alright, so now we have horizontal and vertical. And now we need to check for the diagonals. So diagonally, it is very simple. So diagonally goes from top left to bottom right. So diagonally, if board 0, 0, so this is the top left, dot get text is equal to board of 1, 1. So this is the middle. And board 1, 1 dot get text is equal to board of 2, 2, which is the bottom right. And we need to make sure that the first value is not empty. So board 0, 0 dot get text is not equal to an empty string. This means we have 3 in a single diagonal. I'm going to do for int I equals 0, I less than 3, I plus plus. We're going to call set winner board of I. And then we're going to set game over to true and return. So let me format this a bit. So highlight all of it and press Shift Tab. So within our set winner, it's just going to iterate through 0 to 2. So it's just going to do board 0, 0, board 1, 1, board 2, 2. Okay? So that's how you check for diagonally. Alright, so now if I play the game, you can see we have 3 diagonally. So finally, we need to do anti-diagonally. So it's going from the top right to the bottom left. So it's going to be very similar to this. So anti-diagonally, if board of 0, 2 dot get text is equal to board of 1, 1 dot get text, and board of 1, 1 dot get text is equal to board of 2, 0 dot get text, and board of 0, 2 dot get text is not equal to an empty string, I'm going to call set winner individually. So 0, 2 is the top right, 1, 1 is the middle, and 2, 0 is the bottom left. So we're just going to go through each one and call set winner. And then game over, we're going to set this to true and return. Okay. So now if I run our program, anti-diagonally is this way. So let's try to get a win here. And you can see O is the winner. Alright, so now that we know the winning conditions for checking if there's a winner in our tic-tac-toe game, we need to take care of one edge case, and that is if we have a tie. So to check for a tie, it is actually very simple. So in our board, we have 9 tiles. And if all the tiles are filled up, that means we have a tie. So we're just going to create an integer here. And let's call it turns and set it to 0. So if the number of turns is equal to 9, that means 9 turns have passed. We cannot play the game anymore. So we have turns set to 0. And then I'm going to scroll down to where our action listener is. And right before check winner, I'm going to increment turns. And then within check winners, we are checking horizontally, vertically, diagonally, and anti-diagonally. If we don't return, if we don't have game over set to true at this point, this means there's a chance that we have a tie. So here, I'm just going to make a quick check. If turns is equal to 9, then that means we have a tie. So to indicate a tie, I'm going to change all the color of the tiles. So for int r equals 0, r less than 3, r plus plus. For int c equals 0, c less than 3, c plus plus. I'm going to call a function called setTie on that tile, board of RC. And then over here, I'm just going to set game over to true. So let's define setTie. And it's going to take a JButton tile. And it's going to be very similar to setWinner. So we're going to change the font color. So tile.setForeground. Let's make it orange. And let's also set the background to the same color. So color.gray. And let's update the text label. So text label dot set text tie. So let's run our program. And let's try to get a tie here, if I can. Alright, tie. So you can see all the tiles change color and the font is yellow. Alright, so now we have a fully functional game of Tic Tac Toe. And you can continue working on this project if you want. As you can see, currently we have no way to restart the game. So whenever there's a winner or a tie, you would have to close the program and rerun it. So one thing you can do is add another button on the bottom over here to restart the game. And if you click on the button, what you should do to restart the game is you should set the tiles back to the original color. So the foreground should be white and the background should be dark gray. And you should clear all the text in each button or each tile. You should also set game over back to true and the number of turns back to 0. So you would do all that within an action listener inside the restart button. Okay? And another thing you can do is add some more variables to keep track of the score for each player. So maybe you can have a player X score and player O score so that after each game, you would restart the game and increment the score as you go along. So you can continue working on the project if you want. There are many enhancements you can make to the game. And yeah, this is where this tutorial ends. And if you found this tutorial helpful, make sure you subscribe for more content like this. Leave a like. And if you have any questions for me, you can leave them down below in the comments. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.